Hello Dan Brown, my name is Brandon, and I want to do a video response to your latest video, Why the iPhone 5 Scares Me. For those of you who haven't yet watched this video of Why the iPhone 5 Scares Me, it's basically Dan Brown talking about how the iPhone 5, which was just released today, how the iPhone 5 is just a snapshot of how far technology has come, and how quickly it's growing now. And he has concerns that technology is growing so fast, so exponentially, that it will get to the point where it will be too far ahead of our capacity, of the mass capacity of human thought, that we will not be able to catch up with technology. Like, technology will move so far ahead into so many different walks of life, such as media, manufacturing, teaching, education, military, stuff like that. Technology will become such a powerful and an important part of our lives that we won't know what to do with ourselves once technology gets to that point. So he mentions in the video that he's one of those people that believes that we live in an age of decentralization, that if you're a 17-year-old kid in Nebraska who lives in his mom's basement, you can make a career out of YouTube. He's lived that, obviously. That's why he mentioned it. I do think that there are different avenues you can take towards, getting your messages out there, towards finding success. You don't have to go through a traditional, you go through college, you go through grad school, and then you go through internships, along the way, and then you get a job. I think that decentralization, that is exactly the era we live in. I totally agree with Dan Brown on that. As for what he's specifically talking about in the video, where he talks about how technology is evolving so fast, he gives an example of how Jay Leno was talking with this one man who had this computer that was able to make plastic replicas of different tools, such as wrenches and steam engines. And they weren't just like these molded, cheap plastic replicas. They were like down to the very detail. Like the little tightener on a wrench, it copied that too. You can actually tighten the plastic wrench. And as for the steam engine, yeah, that's right. It can roll the same way as the real thing. And so he's, and Dan Brown says, well, what do you think it's going to get to 20 years down the line? And my response to that is, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like 20 years from now. Nobody really knows. We can only make predictions. We can only use what we know so far, what we've learned so far, and apply that to what we think is going to happen tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. But we never really know what's going to happen 20 years from now. But we're usually pretty good guessers, right? But that's what I think it is. That's what I think it all comes down to. We don't really know what's going to happen in 20 years. We don't know if it's going to be good. We don't know if it's going to be bad. But what I have to say about that is, though, for this particular issue with technology, technology is man-made. Technology is something that humans created. It's what humans created to make life easier and stuff. And if it gets to the point in 20 years where it's like the Jetsons and all the robots clean up all our messes for us, which would be awesome, we do have to think about how that'll affect us economically, because we already see that with the post industry, with email becoming, it's just plowing right over the postal service, the postal industry. I know, because I know somebody who works in the post industry, and they're telling me that, by the year, by the month even, more and more workers are being cut off the payroll because they simply do not have the resources nor the funding to pay and, to afford to employ these people, because email is now the new norm. And Dan Brown also, he raises the question of, what are we going, because, the Industrial Revolution was the last major manufacturing event in our days, in the day. It changed how we lived our lives. It changed how we view, product advancement. It changed how we think about, the potentials of what we can do with our brains, what we can do with technology, what we can do with the ideas that come from our brains to invent new technology, stuff like that. And so it's, you know, that was the last major event, manufacturing oriented event, and another one is probably upon us. And what I'd have to say is, I think that, now I'm not an economist, so I don't know how it would work, but what I would think we should do is that in order for us as a people to be more in sync with what is happening around us, technologically speaking, we need more people to be involved in STEM fields. Not as a career, but just a basic, general, up-to-date understanding of what we're dealing with in terms of what technology we're using today, in terms of what new mathematical, theories and theorems we're applying in our technology, what new sciences we're applying to everyday life. We just need, if we all have a basic understanding of that, then maybe we will not be so, taken aback by, how scary it is that we've come this far. Maybe that would help a bit. What I would also say is maybe we should, we do, and like I said, I'm not an economist, so I don't know how exactly we would make it happen. We need to figure out a way to make it so that there, while truckers will no longer, transportations of goods will no longer need human drivers. Maybe we need to figure out ways that humans can still somehow be involved in, the new era of technology. Because think of it this way: I mean, computers, iPods, iPads, all those different, pieces of technology. They're only useful if they got a human at the keyboards or they got a human at the touch screens. Because without humans, technology is seemingly useless. Like I said, it all starts in a human's head, and then it is translated onto it transforms into either a laptop or a refrigerator or a piano, any kind of technology. It all starts with humans. So that's why I think that we need to figure out a way to incorporate human hands into how we go about what might happen 20 years from now. And I'm not saying that what Dan Brown is saying is a little bit too, it's like fear-mongering. I'm not saying that he's fear-mongering at all, like, oh my god, it's going to be the end of the world 20 years from now when technology could have pretty much, enslave all the human race or anything. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, Dan Brown, I thank him, actually. I thank him for, sort of, kickstarting this conversation by, getting us, I think, we owe it to him to, for getting us to start talking about, whether or not we as a species are ready for such, huge technological advances. Because although the Industrial Revolution was in and of itself, an awesome, advancement in human technology, it's probably not going to hold a candle up to how we're advancing now. We are not just gradually, we are not gradually advancing, we are exponentially, we are increasing by an increasing amount, and we need to, I do think we need to start talking about how we can prevent our being, completely taken by surprise by how far technology has become. Because we need to know how to use it, and if we don't know how to use it, well, how will we ever survive? So that's all I wanted to say. I'm pretty sure that whatever I've said thus far is questionable, up for debate. I'm perfectly fine with that. I will listen with an open mind. And if Dan Brown, you want to do a video response to what I've said, feel free to. I'm honestly, I want to have this discussion. I like I said, I sincerely thank you for kick-starting this conversation. I hope that you'll continue to have it with the rest of the Poco tribe, including myself. All right, later.